I'm sure don't, or are basically kept in the dark like we are, end quote, we are. So, this fellow right here with the hat on. Well, there's 131 of them in the United States, 127 of them in the lower 48. There's some in Canada, I'm not counting those. Some in northern Mexico, I'm not counting those either. They average about 4¼ cubic miles hollowed out underground, an average depth of 5,700 feet underground. Average cost $17 to $31 billion each. They employ anywhere from 1,800 to 10,000 people. And some very large ones now being built in Sweden, one of which is repudiated to be 30 cubic miles. It'll take 5 years to build that one at a cost of about $2 trillion. And that's all being supplied by the United Nations. Yes? Anybody over here? No? This gentleman. Speak up, please. Okay, you want to know exact locations of all these? Well, for where all of your Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force bases are, they're with all the present, not the ones closed down. And by the way, the closed down bases are now being used for gasoline storage and equipment storage and these kind of things. So they're not really closed down yet. Boot camps, end quote, boot camps and all this kind of stuff. So-called prisoner camps and these kind of things. Right now, our police, for instance, are being trained by the Air Force and the Army intelligence in martial law research, as they call it. How dare they call that by that name? So where these are, they're where every one of these strategic bases are now. In Colorado, in and around Denver, there's 3 of them. And they're fairly small. Some of these bases are only maybe 2,000 to 3,000 feet in depth. Some of them were built a long time ago, back 35, 40 years ago, and they're only maybe 500 feet. And they're mostly for equipment storage. Denver, and then there's Fort Collins. There's also Colorado Springs area has a number of them. By the way, Colorado Springs is kind of a famous area. Nikola Tesla's laboratories were in Colorado Springs, and need I say more? I'll leave that up to Al Bielek. As far as Nellis Air Force Base, there's 9 underground mountain bases in Nellis Air Force Base. That's in Nevada. It's north of Las Vegas. There's going to be a UFO show and conference in Mesquite here later on this month, and that's up very close to, end quote, Area 51. That whole area, by the way, the state of Nevada is 81% end quote, managed or owned by the federal government. The land is either restricted or run by the federal government. That's why there's groups rising as we speak, dealing with the problem very vociferously, and senators are now getting involved, so evidently waking up is occurring. Yes, this gentleman over here. Speak up, please. Okay. Yes, they are. The gentleman asked, are these tunnels connected to large caverns? Yes, these large bases are basically like this Coliseum. Everything's underground. Everything's a city underground. Most of these bases both have military bases, and they have all the accoutrements of life. Remember, each one of these costs quite a bundle of dough, and some of it in our tax money, but most of it in clandestine approaches, and that's definitely undermining the country. Yes. Well, some of them have a difficulty in understanding our language. It's too slow to them. If you've heard whale songs or bird chirpings at high speed, it's about what these aliens sound like audibly to us, so it's a bunch of gibberish. Yes, they've slowly actually broken down. There's 11 prototypes or 11 civilizations of aliens visiting this planet all the time, all of which are known by the U.S. military, 9 of which are not very good indeed. They're pretty bad news. 2 of which are benevolent, but the benevolent ones have supposedly left. They have their own little war of sorts, especially the Pleiadian groups and whatnot like that, of which Val Thor was repudiated to be a Venusian, but other people will alert he looks more like a Pleiadian. He looks normal human, except he's got 6 fingers and toes. He's got one oversized lung. He's got 2 hearts. He's got all kinds of weird stuff. Bones are bigger. Yep. The man asked, do I tie in the alien agenda to the New World Order? Yes, sir, 100%. I can elaborate briefly. The New World Order right now basically is dismantling countries, governments, telling governments not to war with each other anymore, basically, so that looks good on the outside. They're taking their orders directly from the aliens who've got their own timetable. They want the one world order because they want the planet for themselves. Of course, you've often heard of the term Global 2000, and that's a supposed sinister plot, or has been a group of sinister plots to produce biological weaponry to reduce or thin out the so-called ethnic cleanse the population of the planet by 5/6, or roughly 5 of 6 billion people, enslaving the rest to work willy-nilly with the so-called people of the New World Order. Now, another peculiar thing is the alien agenda is not really well believed nor understood by a lot of these one-worlders. They don't believe it. They think they've been singled out for their own end of glory, and what they don't know is they're just another human being, and according to the negative or bad aliens, they're just another, we're considered bags of food to them. They don't eat us like we think of a cannibal eating a hunk of meat, but they use our glandular secretions as part of their food base, their blood and our glandular secretions like adrenochrome and other kinds of things like this. And in fact, the Atlanta Center for Disease Control has figured out ways that we can combat this and all this kind of thing like that. It might be where these new designer diseases like AIDS and Ebola and hantavirus and all these kinds of things have come up out of nowhere, and these diseases, end quote, almost have a mind of their own. Yes, this lady here. Okay, lady asked, is the tunnel building having an effect with earthquakes? Yes, it could very easily be, although got to remember a lot of these underground bases are constantly being repaired, and so a lot of people have to be hired. As far as the U.S. government, second part of her question was, is the U.S. government modifying our weather? Yes, that's an affirmative. And we have, the U.S. government's been working with the Russians for at least since 1972 and maybe as early as 1966 on weather modification. And it's a well-known fact, and it's well employed. And by the way, they can literally weather modify a hurricane or a tornado out of existence. And the reason they don't do it is pretty obvious. And right, or they could actually send a plane inside of a hurricane, for instance, that would blow off an atmospheric bomb or a shockwave bomb in the eye of the thing, and it would completely dissipate. Well, they don't do this, of course, and there's probably other reasons for that, see which way it goes or what kind of havoc and how we can study the havoc, and we go from there.